Brought to you by Excel, makers of inexpensive and high-quality Windows and Android tablets. Great gadgets for less. Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and we are doing a live broadcast that you are probably watching recorded right now. I am joined by Matt Zagaya. Now, Matt is a friend of mine who joined me on this crazy adventure to CES. Matt, how you doing?
Doing well, Lon. How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you for joining me on this little experiment tonight. This is the first time I've been able to do this two-up thing on the TriCaster, so I've been really excited to try it out. So we had quite a trip out there, didn't we?
Yeah, it was definitely quite the experience. I think according to the little iPhone step monitor, we walked about 40 miles over the 5 days.
We did?
Yeah, that was the official count at the end of the trip.
Wow, so I guess we did okay from a walking standpoint. That's awesome. So yeah, we did quite a bit of walking. We had a lot of things that we saw there, and I think what we'll do here is I'm going to try to keep this to about an hour, give or take, and then of course we'll take questions from everybody. What I'd like to do is kind of step through some of the things that we did as far as coverage first, because I really want to talk about the fact that it was just the two of us, you and I, who went out here and did all this stuff. And this was really hard to cover this as a two-person operation. And I think it might be interesting just to kind of step through how we did that. And we had, we didn't have a lot of gear with us either. So we really kind of, we just brought what we thought we needed, and it worked out pretty well. So why don't you talk about some of the stuff that you did while I get out our magic tripod here?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there was certainly a lot of prep work leading up to the trip. Once we had gone ahead and decided that we were going to make this little excursion, there's a lot of effort going through the CES website and figuring out who was going to be there, and then tracking down contacts so that we can set up appointments with a lot of people. Some people Lon had worked with in the past, and so they're a little easier to get in touch with. But these bigger brands like LG or Intel, you go to the CES site and there's a bunch of vendors listed, and sometimes there would or wouldn't be a helpful contact listed that you could email or try calling. And so my approach was I emailed them, and sometimes they'd get back and were very helpful. In other cases, had to make some phone calls or work a little ninja magic and asking to try and track down the right people to get in. But I think it paid off because we were able to get in with a lot of the bigger brands as well as the guys you knew.
Yeah, it was surprising to me just how easy it was to talk to people while we were on the floor. And we did a couple of things that, well, there's a couple of strategies here, and we'll talk about those in a little bit. But we basically did the first night or the second night we were there, we went to what's called PepCom, which is where you have everybody all in one place, and that was really, really helpful. And then we went out and did, kind of the show floor shuffle, and we did have appointments with a lot of people, but we were able to actually just kind of set up the camera and start taping stuff, and that was really probably the coolest thing, just to be able to kind of set up the camera, and generally there were people there that wanted to talk to us. And what's cool is that we got this tripod, and I think I talked about this on one of the weekly wrap-ups here. This is it. Let me get to my other camera here so you might be able to get a better view of it. So it is really lightweight. This is I think a Bowden or a Oben, and I got this at B&H for half price. It's carbon fiber. It was about $150, so that means that it's lightweight, but it's very strong. So it feels like metal, but in fact it's carbon fiber, and it weighs, like I said, 2.5 pounds. This is really like just nothing. And what was cool, and I'll pull up our camera shot here, you can kind of see what this looked like when it was set up. So we had our big camera hooked up on there, and when we were shooting, it was holding it up really well. I was surprised that it did as well as it did. And we just kind of attached the camera to it and walked around with it, and that's how we did most of the shooting while we were there, which was great. So you can see me talking to this guy at PepCom. PepCom was in this like little hotel convention thing, and we just had this pretty much, I think, a 5-pound camera on there. It was not light by any stretch. This can hold up to 8 pounds, and I was even surprised that the ball head on here is actually really, it really pans nicely. It's very smooth. You can even tilt up and down with it fairly nicely. You had to be careful when you had a lot of weight on it, but it was really nice. And what I would do is when I was, when we finished up a shot, I would just kind of lower these bottom portion of the legs and just kind of keep the camera on my shoulder and walk around with it. So Matt was very familiar with that shuffle, right?
Yeah, we carried everything fully loaded. I think we started out, what was it, with 2 backpacks, and we were carrying your laptop and some other things, and eventually we figured out how to pare it down into one bag and then break everything out, and so that when we were going from booth to booth, we would be almost ready to shoot as we kind of set everything up. And
that was it. It was funny because the first day we were there, we were carrying everything with us, and then we figured, you know what? We don't have any time to edit anything, so why are we bringing all this stuff with us? So we kind of pared down, and we had everything in a single backpack, and then when we got set up for the first shot, that's when we would kind of get the camera set up and then just walk around with it as we went around. The only issue with this tripod is that there are 5 segments on it, and normally that's a good thing because you can really adjust like exactly what the length is you want on it, but in this case it was a bit of a pain because you had to get every leg adjusted so you didn't have a crooked camera, and some of my shots were a bit crooked, and that drives me crazy. I'm watching some of these things, I'm like, oh, these shots are crooked, but it was good enough, and we were able to get it done. And it was. I think we did a lot for what we had available to us. The hotel internet, though, wasn't so great, was it?
No, it wasn't. As funny as you were setting things up, I think I just got 2 or 3 emails asking about how the hotel experience was. And so I'd stayed at this hotel before, and while they were fine with a lot of their other amenities, they had moved to wireless internet. And Lon, didn't the guys from Silicon Dust say that almost all the hotels moved over to wireless the week or 2 before CES started?
Yeah, I think they said that at least at their suite they also had switched to wireless like the day before everybody showed up. So so here's the deal with the hotels. When you do a CES hotel, they give you a rate, and then they have a mandatory resort fee, which they say pays for a whole bunch of stuff, including what they said was wired internet. And when I got there, there was no wired internet. And so I had we actually had some leeway here to get our money back on that fee because they basically turned the wireless on the day before all the CES people showed up, and it didn't work at all. It worked for literally 10 minutes when I was in the hotel room, and that was it. Luckily, my LTE modem, I have one of those little LTE jump pack things from Verizon, that worked. And I have, through my company, we have like 40 gigabytes a month, so I was able to upload our videos. Those short videos, the CES videos, they average about a couple hundred megs a piece, maybe like 700 or 800 for a longer one and 300 or 400 for a shorter one. So I was able to get all those videos uploaded. The way my billing cycle works, I didn't even get close to tipping over our monthly allocation. So we lucked out there. So that was a good thing. So that worked out. But yeah, the bandwidth was definitely a challenge. And as Sweggy in the chat room says, we're quoting him a lot here, hotel internet is never great. And you know what? It was great for all of 5 minutes, and then it crapped out on us. So
yeah, it's amazing that at a tech conference they would not spend the extra effort to get the hotel internet working properly for all the tech savvy attendees.
It's really crazy, right? I mean, this is what you're there for, is for this CES, this big show that is like the show every year, and they could not get the internet working right. So that was a bit of a frustration point for us, but we persevered, and we did get the stuff uploaded, and that's what matters. So that worked out pretty well for us. So that was kind of the model. And what we did is we had the camera on there. Now we did a 2-camera shoot. So what we would do is we'd set the tripod up with the Sony camera. We have a PX70, and I'll pull up that video again because I want everyone to see what's on the top of it. Let me get that queued up here. And on the top of that camera, if you can see it on the left, is that wire that goes out of the camera into the microphone. So the Sony has really good audio inputs, so we can plug in these SM58 microphones. These are classic microphones they were designed in the 60s. They're vocal microphones. And after you see this video and you hear me talking about this microphone, you're going to see it everywhere. So if you're ever at an event or something and you see somebody talking into a microphone, chances are that's the mic they're using. And what's nice about it is that it isolates all the outside exterior sound, and it really kind of isolates down to what's coming in onto the top of the mic. So when you're in very noisy environments, it picks up the audio and it picks it up really, really well, which is just amazing. So that was really the key. And if some people were kind of complaining about the microphones, but that was really the only way we could get good audio there, at least for our budget, was to have that microphone on a stick. We did bring 2 of them with us. Occasionally you might see us using 2 at a time. The camera only takes 2 mics at a time. So if we had 3 people like we had for the Axel interview, that made it a little bit difficult to, we have to kind of pass the mic around. But even in the interview room that they had at the press room there, you couldn't hear anything if you had just a regular mic on there. It was really noisy. So it was probably the only way to go. And they did treat the press, though, nicely there, Matt, didn't they?
Yeah, we had a full press room that was outfitted with wireless internet, lots of tables. They set up snacks and Starbucks coffee throughout the day, and they also had set up free lunch at lunchtime every day. That was actually pretty good. I mean, they gave us a decent sandwich, so you didn't have to starve to death or eat like super greasy things all the time.
Exactly. I had the ham sandwich every day, and that had more ham than Subway had. So it was good, and I think and they had breakfast there. There was coffee there all day long, and that's just for press. And it was really nice to know that, because you didn't have to wait online in different places. You could really get things done. The internet in the press room, if you plugged in, they had wired internet connections there as well, was decent. So it was good. We didn't really do a lot of editing during the day, because the philosophy we took with this was that if we're sitting at home editing all the time, or at the hotel or in the press room, we're not out there seeing stuff. The show was open like from I think 9 or 10 a.m. to about 5 or 6 p.m. So I really wanted to make every waking hour that the show was going, time that we could go out and collect footage, and that's pretty much what we did. And it was pretty interesting. Let me pull up the show floor, because I think this would be a good. Actually, you know what? Before I do that, let me show you how we edited, and I think that then we can kind of go into the mechanics of the show. So let me pull up my Mac here, and you'll see what we did. So now, when we had set one camera up on a tripod with the audio inbound into that, and then Matt had his own camera that he was using that we brought with us also. So we had 2 cameras whenever we were doing this stuff, and what that let us do was a multi-camera edit. And I've done a video about multicam editing, so if you do a search on my channel for that, you can kind of see how that works. But in Final Cut Pro 10, this is what it looks like. So if I go back here, I'm just going to turn I don't know if my audio is on this or not, but let me just turn the audio down on here. If you go in and play this video, you'll see that there are 2 angles playing simultaneously. And what's amazing about this is that you just have to select your clips and click on Create Multicam Clip in Final Cut, and it automatically syncs everything up exactly. And then when you're editing, all you do is just kind of click back and forth to get the shot that you want. So you can see down here as we're playing this back, let me just go onto the timeline here. You'll see that in the big window there, you see that, and it'll switch there. And then I can even adjust when these takes happen. So if I felt like this was going for too long, I can just go over here and just kind of drag that over that way, and it'll cut back a little bit sooner than it would have otherwise. And if I leave the playhead there and I just move this back this way, you'll see now that I put that back where it was. So really cool to be able to do this. So it's kind of like having a switcher like we're using right now with us. So basically, when I got back to the hotel room, I would just create the little projects in Final Cut here, bring in all the footage, and then it would synchronize all of it up based on the audio. And what was really incredible about Final Cut is that, and I think there's other, Premiere and other packages do this also. It's not just an Apple thing. What's cool about how Final Cut works is that it's able to do this even if the other camera's audio is nothing but noise. It can kind of hear that little bit of audio to be able to pull out what it wants. And I was just really blown away by that. So that was really cool that worked. So I guess we should talk about the show, Matt, right? Does that sound like a good segue here?
Yeah, definitely. We can maybe talk a little bit about the different sections of the show and what we found and what was kind of interesting and what was fun, and then maybe any disappointments that we had as well,
Sure.
or
So
lessons that we learned.
Yeah, we learned a lot. We always learn lessons, don't we? So let me show you for everyone just how big this show is, because This doesn't look like much here, but let me just kind of scale this into proportion for you. And in the process, I'm going to pull up a video that I'll play in a second here. So to put all this in perspective, you could have a major industry trade show in just one level of these levels here at the Las Vegas Convention Center. So this is the South Hall, lower level, the South Hall, upper level, the Central Hall, the North Hall, okay? The Westgate Hotel, where everyone had their suite set up. The Sands across the street, which is also 2 levels, probably as big, if not bigger, than the convention center to some degree, at least one of these individual halls. And the Venetian had a whole bunch of places too. There were 160,000 people. This is us waiting for the bus. I'm playing that fast motion video we did while we were waiting for the bus. So just give you an idea of just how many people were at this show. Most of them were not press. So the cool thing about that is that as a small number of press, we were able to get a lot of interviews, which is why we were able to produce so much content. But this is an enormous show. And I think that the biggest thing, and we can kind of talk about the Sands in a second, the biggest thing that I regret was not spending more time at the Sands over here, because that's where we found a lot of the younger, hungrier companies, which I thought they were fun, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And it was just interesting to see the atmosphere as you walked through it. And you had this situation where the entrepreneurs for these individual companies, oftentimes it was the founder or CEO, was practically dragging you to their booth, begging you to do a video of their product.
Right. It was rare that we actually were begged to come in anywhere as this no-name YouTube channel. So it was pretty fun to have them kind of come after us. And so what it was that if you like the big booths, so like the big booths, let me pull this back up again here. The big booths were in Central Hall. So this is where like Sony and Panasonic and all the big name brands were. They were in like the North and Central Halls. Some of the other brands, like I think LG was over there. Maybe some of the middle tier brands were in these 2 sections here, and then all the little guys and gals were over here. And they had these tiny little booths, but they were kind of eager to get over there. That was all the the Indiegogos and the Kickstarters, and a lot of those kinds of things were over in this section, and there was so much cool stuff there. This is where we found that really cool HDMI video switcher that I was all excited about. That was probably like the coolest thing that I saw for the show for video people there. So there was just so much there, and I think next time if we go, we start there, and then when we're exhausted there, then we go to the other sections to see some of the name brand stuff. Because I think that's where like a channel like mine really shines, is like finding those little things that we weren't thinking about. Like that's where I could see things being a lot more interesting for people. So what did you think of the Sands, Matt?
I think the other thing too that was interesting was when we were going to set everything up, I didn't even give a whole lot of thought to the physical layout of the space. And so when we were going from place to place, I had scheduled them mostly based on when they were, the press people said, okay, this is a good time to meet. And now realizing the vast scale of what we were traversing, I think next time what I would do is I would look at a map of where everyone's booths are and the hospitality suites, and try and work it by geographic clusters so that we could minimize our walking a little more, and then also maybe get some more videos in. I mean, I think we got a good number in. How many did we do when we were at the Sands?
We did. I think we got a lot done there. I think we did like I'm not sure exactly how many we did there, but I think we probably did at least a third at the Sands, and that was only spending really half a day of the entire show time that we were there over there. So I think that was actually pretty decent. So yeah, and that was one of the issues, is because even going from here to here or to there, these are big places. It was just absolutely enormous. Now, what's cool is that they had. They were using the iBeacon technology, which is something Apple's created, and I think they had something for Android folks too. So when you had the app up, even if you were inside the building, it would tell you where you were, and it was relatively accurate. I mean, it was almost like walking in New York City sometimes, when it'll have you on one block and then it shifts you over. So it was accurate to within like 5 booths. I think was the best way to describe it. But it did help you navigate around this a little bit. But it was crazy. And then people also, so some companies didn't have booths at all. They had hospitality suites. So we went over to the Westgate to talk to the Silicon Dust guys who make the HD home run, and that was a bit of a hike because you had to go across the street. It was the old Las Vegas Hilton over there, so that was farther out there. I think we also went over to the Venetian or the Palazzo to meet with Corsair. So they had a nice suite set up. And what's nice about the suites is that it's a lot more relaxed. There's not a lot of noise. And you're walking into basically a big fancy hotel room, which they set up to be their booth. And that was a lot nicer to work in because you could have a conversation. You could actually hear what the other person was saying. You weren't screaming at each other because of all the loud noises and stuff. So that worked out pretty well. I like those suites. They were pretty nice, weren't they, Matt?
Yeah, and didn't we got to use the lav mics in a couple of them, which was something that we weren't really able to do for most of the show, right?
That's right, yeah. So I brought the lav mic that I use here, I brought with me to the show also. And we used, again, the stick mics mainly because they pick up audio better in the environment that we were in, but also because the lav mics they're the same kind of technology. They're cardioid microphones, but the SM58s work better, and the fact that it takes time to set up the little microphone here, get them clipped onto the person, and we were really kind of running and gunning to try to get as much as we could possibly get done during the trip, and we did do quite a bit. We got, not to toot our horns here, but we did 42 videos. Which encompasses almost 3 hours of content throughout the week. And I have the list here pulled up right now. If you go to Lon.TV/CES 2015, you can see the full list. And quite a bit. It was what was funny is I thought maybe we would do 20, maybe, but we just cranked them out. And what was frustrating to some degree was the fact that it just took time to edit. Even when we were both working on it, it just takes time to get all of these things worked on and edited, but we were able to do that. So maybe before we take some questions, maybe we talk about some of the stuff that we liked the best. What were the things that you saw, even if we didn't video it, what were some of the things that you saw that you thought were pretty cool, Matt?
I think among the things that I saw and experienced, I still absolutely loved being in the BMW self-driving car.
So let me pull that video up while you're talking here.
That was, I think, is now our video with the most hits. And even though we weren't going super fast the way, say, a Tesla would go when it takes off, it was an electric car, and it was in the parking lot. And I think, what were we going, like 5 miles per hour?
Yeah, it was 2 miles per hour.
Yeah, 2 miles per hour.
Yeah, but that was fine because with no one driving, it was kind of good that it was going 2 miles an hour and didn't drive us through something. So that was good.
Yeah, it was definitely a little less nerve-wracking, and I think also it was one of those things that we were able to go in on a whim, and the BMW people saw that we were press people and had a YouTube channel, and they wanted us to have that experience. And a lot of the other attendees weren't even allowed in the cars. They had finished booking those appointments. And
right. So the way it worked was, and I'd learned this later, is apparently press were able to get the ride in the self-driving car. And these were the same cars that were letting people test drive, I guess. So what they had is you could sign up for a test drive and then drive around the parking lot, which they offered to us, but I said, you know what, if we do that, because there was so much traffic, we were going to be stuck for like an hour just trying to get into the car and then going out. So they said, how about a ride in the self-driving car? I'm like, yeah, that's cool, let's go do that. So, and they had this guy who, remember there was that German guy there who summoned the car with his watch, and the footage didn't come out that great, so that kind of didn't make it to the cutting room floor, but I can pull it up on Final Cut here, and we'll cut back to it real quick so you can see what he was doing here. So basically, he talked to his watch. He had one of these Google smartwatches on, and it would send the command to the car, which would come and pick him up. Now, I'm sure that they had this thing, not rigged necessarily, but I'm sure they had it kind of set so that the command was very simple, and it would just come the 35 feet that it was going to come. So he had, in this video that we're watching right now, he just issued the command to the car, and then it pulls up with nobody driving it. Very slowly around the corner there, and essentially picked us up. So I think that was the car they put us in when we got there. I can't remember, but there you can see it driving nobody.
Yeah, and you can see the shadow from our big lights that we had on the camera.
Yeah, so we made the mistake of not taking the light off the camera, so it cast this huge rectangle shadow on my face. So that was the end of that shot. So we try. You don't always succeed. In fact, you fail most of the time. But that's part of learning, and that's what's part of what makes what this stuff is so much fun. to be able to do that kind of stuff. And it was really, really cool.
And
So I have some questions in the chat room here before we get into some more of our favorites. So let's see. Tom Prokes wanted to know if we got any freebies. The only freebie we got was a bag. Do you have your bag handy, Matt?
yeah, let me see if I can.
Matt'll look for his bag in the meantime. So we got a press bag from CES. Let me cut back over to Matt here. So there we go. Actually, it's a pretty nice little backpack. It's pretty sturdy. It survived the trip home. So
yeah,
it was nice. Yeah, a couple pockets. You could put like a laptop in there and stuff. So that was
it's like padded sleeve for laptop stuff, and then there's an extra canvas bag inside. And I think somewhere back in here, they gave us a little reporter notebook as well.
That's right. And no like press visit is complete without the reporter notebook. That's something they always give you. Even when I go to the NASA stuff, you get a really, when this, like the last couple of space shuttle launches, they had an awesome reporter's notebook with all of this like stats and figures on the space shuttle and stuff. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, they give you a little notebook, and you got a hat from Gibson, the guitar people. So that was the freebies. But the big freebies was the fact that they gave you a workspace to work in, and there was lunch available that CES provided to all the press covering the event. And that was really, I think, for not even the monetary savings, just the time savings of not having to go sit online somewhere with 160,000 people. Because we did try to do the food trucks once, and you just can't get through the line. I mean, you lose 2 hours of the day just trying to get lunch. So to have lunch available where we could quickly eat and then go back out onto the floor. And we were really working our tails off, walking around a lot. As you said, how many miles did we do? 40?
Yeah, it was about 40 miles, and you just see seas of people everywhere. I mean, the scale of it, it's like being at a rock concert or something like that.
Yeah, it was that, it was that crazy. It was really nuts the whole time we were there. So somebody else is asking here, let's see, Mike Mitchell Murphy is wondering if there was any celebrity sightings. I didn't see any celebrities. They were there, but if they were there, I probably missed them. I mean, there was a few like tech reporters and stuff that we saw walking around, but I didn't really see any celebrities. Did you?
Yeah, I didn't see any of the celebrities. I mean, we did see Father Robert Ballister walking around, right?
That's right, the digital Jesuit. So if you watch the Twit network, the This Week in Tech network, they have. He's a priest. He's a Jesuit priest, but he's an enterprise IT expert, and he hosts a number of shows on the Twit network. And we ran into him at PepCom. That was that thing we went to the first night where a whole bunch of brands were in one place, and we saw him walking around there. So you often see like a lot of the other journalists there, but I didn't see too many celebrities. You could have met them at like some special events and stuff that they had set up, but those were always mobbed, and we were just trying to get our footage taken down or put up, not taken down, put up so that we can get things going there. So one other question, then we'll continue on here is Duke and I was wondering if the new silicon dust device was coming out this year in a time frame. They really weren't talking about new stuff. I think they were looking at kind of getting their branding up, refreshed and getting it ready for the new year. They didn't mention anything new there, but I think they love the channel because the video that I did on the HD Home Run initially is the top video for that product, and I'm sure if they have something new, they're going to let us know about it. They did tell me there was an antenna product there that I'm going to be taking a look at. I live in the middle of nowhere, so they had this antenna that they're working with this company out of Boston on, and they said it's just awesome. So we're going to get an evaluation unit in here to see if I can pick up any TV stations at my house. That will be a major thing. So we'll see. We'll see how that comes together. So we'll take it from there. So anything else, Matt, that was that you thought was pretty cool, and then we can keep going through our list? Definitely keep going, because I know there was a lot of stuff that you found.
I guess the only other thing I guess the two things I thought were really neat were the Carbon Flyer was just, it seems so fun. You could just start launching it, and had these, if you didn't see the video, there were, it's an airplane, it's made out of carbon fiber, and these two little propellers is, I believe, an Indiegogo project, right, Lon?
Yeah, it was an Indiegogo project, and it's basically indestructible. So the best way to describe this is that if anyone saw my review of that Bluetooth-controlled paper airplane thing that I reviewed, by the way, that's like almost I think it's my #2 video now. So I reviewed this thing where you can control this paper airplane from your phone. This is very similar, except the airplane is made out of carbon fiber. And you kind of use it the same way. You tilt your phone up and down, and you can fly this thing around. But it's again, it's carbon fiber, so it's pretty much indestructible. But they also have like a little 720p camera on there as well, so you can record the flight onto an SD card. So I think it's going to be you're right, it's going to be a really fun product because it's got a lot of like just cool possibilities, and I think it's great for kids. They can't destroy it. It charges quickly, so they're not going to get bored with it too quickly. I think that's a really fun little toy, and not too expensive either. I forgot what the price was. It was like $100 or something, but for something that's going to last, that has a camera, I think that's a pretty good deal. So that was cool.
Yeah, it was a little more affordable than Oculus Rift, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you could actually buy it sort of through the thing. And we didn't get to try the Oculus. They had a booth there. We did see something cool that was right next to that booth. That was the that treadmill, VR treadmill thing. I'll pull that up real quick. Because the line for Oculus was crazy, right?
Yeah, line for Oculus, they had a giant booth, and people just were literally lined up and wrapped around the booth, I think, 2 or 3 times. And there was both a section for appointments and then a section for people who just wanted to do walk-ups. And it was pretty much impossible to get in. You could download the app and try and get an appointment. I think they told us, oh, well, if you want to try and get in Friday.
Right.
But there is no way.
No, the line was like snaking around the entire the whole booth the whole time, and it was impossible to get in there. And Oculus is one thing that's really hard to review because it's a very personal experience, so it's very difficult to kind of get in there and just show how it works. But right next to the Oculus booth was this treadmill thing where this guy's walking around and able to play this game. He had an Oculus on his head, and in the back is the Oculus booth, the 2-story Oculus booth. Some of these booths were really elaborate. It was like they must have spent millions of dollars on this, but you can see he moves his feet on this platform here, and it translates into motion on the screen. It looked like, though, he was kind of we were really watching this for a while because it was kind of interesting. He was really struggling there, though, wasn't he? I mean, it didn't seem like it was as natural as walking. It was almost like shifting your feet over a like using slippers or something, right?
Like sliding over a slippery wood floor or something like that.
Yeah, it was not. It didn't look like it was all that easy. I mean, I think he was kind of like struggling as he's walking. You can see he's putting a lot of effort into moving his feet on there. But that device, it doesn't come with the Oculus, but it wasn't as expensive as I thought. I guess they're starting at $500 for that whole kit, minus the Oculus and the little gun he's using. With the shoes too, $700 after February, but not all that expensive. So I guess that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it was kind of interesting too, Lon. It seems like they're building a lot of products around Oculus and a lot of camera stuff. I mean, we saw, I think it was the Parrot Bebop drone had an Oculus set up for piloting their drone with. And then there was also, was it Kodak had that 360-degree camera, right?
Yeah, that was pretty cool. And a lot of people have been, it's funny, out of like when you look at the reaction that people had to the coverage, like that one got the most interest as far like people commenting and stuff. Like there was just a lot of interest in how that product worked. I'll pull it up while we're chatting here. And I think that's going to be neat. So what you do is you basically set the camera and point its lens at the sky, and it just picks up. I'll pull it up here. You point it at the sky, and it'll take like a kind of like a 360-degree image, and you can get a really neat perspective. Let me pull up. See, that's the app demonstrating how it works. So you get like the entire field of view, basically half a dome essentially of views, and you can do what he's doing here, which is this kind of wrapping it around there. You can do some crazy stuff like put it into a cylinder and stuff. And then there's one view that I think is really cool, and that you can experience. You can kind of just scroll around the video. And what I'm showing now, Matt, is like that. The view of just like where you'd use your finger and just kind of look around with him as he's riding his bike.
Oh, yeah, that was neat.
And that's like, for me, just like a really cool way to experience video, because you get, you can experience a scene, you can experience something that's happening all around you, and you can watch that video 12 times and see something different. You can maybe choose to look at the sky in one video or one playback, and look to the left in another one, and to the right in another playback. It's really cool. I don't know how the audio picks up. That was the one thing I didn't ask him. It would be kind of neat to know if, as you're panning, if the audio will kind of change with that perspective. I don't know if it'll do that, but that is that's kind of a cool thing. So
Yeah, audio is certainly going to be the next frontier. I was actually surprised that I didn't see as many audio innovations as I did in the video, but it seemed like they were trying to build a lot of these cameras to help both with the social sharing stuff, and then it also seems like, I mean, something like the Kodak 360 camera is probably going to be used for developing footage that's going to be used in Oculus and Oculus products.
yeah, you can see how this Oculus thing is going to change a lot. It's going to bring just a whole different way of interacting. And I hope people don't get that seasick from it, because I think you're going to have a group of people that can use it and use it for a period, length of time, and a whole other group of people that are going to put it on and puke. So I don't know how they're going to square up with that. I think they've been trying to address the motion sickness issue, but I mean, I know people that just playing like a game, like one of those first-person games, get sick from that. So I don't know if it's going to be a great experience for everybody who uses Oculus to see where it goes. So so that is there. Now, we did see, related to that, the ODG booth, which incidentally was also in the Sands. They've got something cool, and what I liken this to is kind of like Google Glass, but more practical. And it doesn't look practical. You see it on my face right now. It looks pretty. They're pretty bulky, but what it does is it puts a really high resolution screen right in front of your face. I think he said it was like 60 inches at 10 feet or something. So you get this it's a really nice quality display. I tried them out, as you can see. I have them on my head here. What was cool about these is that you get the augmented reality. So it's not Oculus where it's blocking out the world from you. You're able to see the world around you, and because of how this screen is configured, it can just overlay images onto what you're looking at. So they had some like some AR apps where it would make a map that you were just looking at in 2 dimensions all of a sudden become 3-dimensional, and the processor on it was fast enough to kind of keep up with that activity. And they have some concept videos in here. Let me see if I can find it in the video here.
Yeah, Lon, was it also able to do the virtual reality with the other lenses, or was that just regular screens?
Just regular screens, yeah. So I think they had like a lens that you could snap on. So the lenses were kind of magnetic, and you could snap them on and off. When I'm playing back now, it's kind of an example of how it's able to, it's almost like the color white on. So the color white on your LCD screen on your computer is basically blank, and it's the backlight that's shining through. This one can do transparency. So it can actually make things white and opaque, or have them transparent. So, and as you're seeing, as this little demo is displaying here, you can see how it's kind of overlaying information on what someone's looking at. And I really feel like these things are what Google Glass should have been, because you're not looking away. It's like right in front of your face, and they have like an example here of like trying to find a bus station, is drawing arrows to it, and it's not. The rest of the image is not getting blocked. So you're seeing things and just seeing these little overlays, like these little heads-up displays going on over what you're looking at. And that I could see these things doing that. They felt that good using them. And I said to him, I said, but they're I'm not going to walk around with these things. Just like I wouldn't walk around with Google Glass. I'm not going to walk around with these. And he says, that's not what they're for. They're a tool. Like, you'll put them on when you need them. You're not going to walk around with them unless you have some reason to wear them. And I think that's a good point. They've been designing, ODG has been designing this stuff for like military and industrial applications. And that's kind of been where they've been developing these things for. So I think finding consumer uses for those is important. He said their user base is pretty high, extensively high in the government and commercial space, that a lot of people who are using these things on a job site now are eager to get them for themselves. So their high-end glasses are like tens of thousands of dollars, or $5,000 or $10,000. These are going to be under $1,000 with a Snapdragon processor. They're basically an Android device in a pair of glasses, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, Lon, did they say anything about durability? Because maybe we'll see Scoble trying to take these into the shower the way he took Google Glass.
I don't know. They do look pretty durable, so we'll see how he goes with that. So we do have some more questions here. So let's see. The Cerevo Live Wedge. I'm going to talk about, Mikester was asking about that. I'm going to get to that in a minute, because I am really excited about that. I'm hoping to get my hands on one to play with it. I think that's going to be a great solution for people doing the kind of stuff that we're doing. Can't do this, by the way, this 2-up thing. It can't do that, but it can do things like that. Let's see. So Mikester actually pre-ordered it, so I don't know. He said like first quarter, so hopefully those will be out soon. I'll show you what that is all about in a second. Let's see. Tom Prokes was asking about something here. Let me see if I missed this question. Is there more future $200 8.1 Bing, I guess, tablets or computers to come? Yes. So we talked to Intel while we were there. We had an interview with Intel. You can find it on that list of videos, Lon.TV/CES 2015. If you go onto that list, you'll see an interview with Intel where they talk about the Bay Trail processor, the move to the next one. I think it's Cloverfield or Moorfield, which is their smaller dies. So the processors are more efficient and use less power. And then they're going to go to Cherry Trail. I think that's what they're calling it, Cherry Trail or Cherry Bay, Cherry Trail, which are the new higher performing processors. So what you're going to see is the same like $100 tablet, but better performing video. So you'll get better. We always test Minecraft on those things. You'll see better Minecraft performance and that sort of thing to come. So check out that interview because it's not very long and it kind of gives you some ideas to where Intel's going on all of this tablet stuff. Because I'm just what for me, Matt, is like more than anything is that this is an equalizer that you can buy a Windows computer for under $100 for education.
Yeah.
I mean, it's huge, right?
Yeah, it's amazing, and I could not imagine being able to get something like that when I was in high school. And I mean, even for applications that people are putting together with companies that they normally wouldn't have the budget to do things electronically, now they're going to start being able to replace paper. And so I think that's going to be huge there as well. And
yeah, especially too, just for kids that, for families that can't afford to have a computer for every person in the house. Now they can, because we're talking $100 right now for a tablet. I'm going to bet you good money that by the end of the next year, you're going to be able to buy a Windows computer that you can plug into your TV for probably $50.
Yeah, and Lon, what kinds of things do you think people are going to be doing with them besides Minecraft? Do you think that they're going to be mostly plugging them in as media PCs, or what kinds of things do you see them doing?
I don't know. I think a whole bunch of stuff. I think and believe it or not, I'm having a hard time to find a use for them right now. But I think it's. They're Windows computers, and I think you're going to find places where you would have used a Windows computer if you didn't want to risk losing a $3,500 piece of equipment. Now you can use a $100 disposable tablet, and I think that's where we're going to see more of that. I think as more of these inexpensive tablets get out there, we're going to see a lot more on the Windows Store that you can actually purchase on there. So Android and iOS have a ton more apps available, primarily because there's more of a market for those apps. But I'll tell you what, $100 Windows tablet feels like better to me than a $100 Android tablet as far as its performance and what it can do, and the fact, again, that you can run regular Windows software. If you plug a mouse, keyboard, and monitor up into it, you've got yourself a desktop computer, which is, I think, a really cool thing. So
yeah, it's cheaper than a school textbook as well. And so you see a lot of these different, Wikipedia has an open textbook section. And I know that Apple was working to do something with iBooks. Obviously, you're not going to run iBooks on a Windows tablet, but Amazon has sections with textbooks as well. And so I could totally see now even first graders carrying one of these tablets and then having all their books in there. And I don't know if you remember, Lon, when you were young, you would go to school and the backpack would be full of like 7 textbooks, one in each class, and it'd be they actually screened us for back problems because the textbooks were so heavy.
I bet. No, the textbooks were heavy when I was a kid too. So we're about to have a revolt in the chat room before we get on to some other stuff. People were dying to know about these XL tablets. So yes, they are. They were available for a short period of time. I think they may have sold out on Amazon. I know they're getting more in. I've got them both upstairs. I just have to get some software loaded up onto them, and I had to get a few other reviews done first. But I'm hoping by the end of this week I'll have the review of both the tablets. But I'll give you a preview of what we have upstairs. So you saw the tablets in that interview. There's 2 versions that are going to be available from XL. There's the fancier one, which has the IPS screen, the aluminum back. That one is going to be like $100. It's got 16 gigs of storage and a gig of RAM, so it's very similar to what we saw from Insignia. It just feels like the build quality feels a lot better because it has that metal backing. The screen feels nicer. It does feel like a really nice device. It doesn't feel like it should cost $100. It feels like it should cost a little bit more than that. The other one is a less expensive device. It is I think it's in the high $80 price range, and surprisingly, it doesn't have an IPS screen, but it looks like the screen looks great on it for a cheap screen. You'll occasionally see like the little, it's hard to explain, but sometimes when you're looking at it, you see like the little lines there, and they go away when you really, wait, do I see lines there? And once you look at it, they kind of just disappear. That one is, like I said, about high 80s or so. It is running the same hardware as the fancier one with the IPS screen, so you'll get the same performance. It does not have an HDMI output that the more expensive one does have. But other than that, it's the same 16 gigs of storage, 1 gig of RAM. I would like to see a little bit more on the storage and on the RAM. I think if they had one, and even if it cost like $150 or $180, if it had 2 gigs of RAM, and I'll probably say this during my review, if it had 2 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of storage, the USB host adapter, plus the HDMI, I'd be like, that'd be it for me. I think that would be the ultimate tablet. But the good news is that pluggable dock that we talked about earlier in the week, that does work with it also. So you can hook the dock up to it and pretty much get yourself a little desktop computer. The cool thing with the more expensive Excel tablet is that because it has the HDMI port, you can hook the video into the HDMI and then the pluggable dock into the USB port, so you can get the faster video along with the keyboard and mouse and charge it at the same time, which is really cool. So I'll cover that in my review when I get that up. I promise. I just wanted to get them, like, they had a bunch of stuff on it. I just wanted to clean them out and start from scratch. So hopefully I'll have that done very soon, and we will have those reviews up shortly. So hopefully everybody got the answer they wanted. They're good. I think they're certainly on par with the other ones that we've looked at. The thing is with all of these Windows tablets is that they perform almost identically because they're all running the same system on a chip. So this Bay Trail thing, it's like the whole system, video, processor, a lot of the I/O, everything is running off that chip. So it's going to perform about the same across the board. So really it's a matter of what the manufacturers decide to put into it as far as ports, screens, build, and all of that kind of stuff. But I will say, with certainty that the $100 XL tablet feels really nice. Just doesn't have a lot of RAM or storage, but we will definitely check that out. And Sweggy does point out, yeah, it would be cool if the pluggable dock had an embedded battery. It doesn't, but I got to think about this. You could probably power it off a battery, and it is sort of portable. You just have to have a lot of wires around with you and stuff, so it's pretty difficult there. So I wanted to get on, though, to a couple other things before we wrap up, and some of my other picks that I found to be pretty cool at the show. The Cerevo video switcher. So let me pull that one up real quick if I can find it here, the Live Wedge. Now this is an example of why we should have spent more time at the Sands, because we went over there like, all right, let's go walk around here. Let's see what we find. And we walked in there and I'm like, remember that? It was like, holy crap,
Yeah.
like, how could we not have been here the whole week?
And he was really the guy the founder, I think it was, that you interviewed. He is so enthusiastic about his product. And I think he also was on some kind of snowboard when we first went over there,
he had
right?
some like snowboard control thing, which was weird. So he's on that, like running around, and like the PR guy was there. Let me get the CEO. We'll bring him over here. So I'm like, wait a minute. So you guys make a video switcher and you make a snowboard controller for
Yeah.
and he said, now it's interesting. So first of all, for those that aren't familiar with what this is, so you all know, I've done this whole bit on the Blackmagic switcher. We got the TriCaster, which is doing this 2-up really cool thing right now. That's running everything you're seeing at the moment, actually. So I'm into video switchers, especially because they've come down in price so much that you can, as I'm doing, run a television studio in your basement. And I think that's really cool. So the problem with this stuff is that it's never been inexpensive, and it is from like the entry point on the Blackmagic, but then you got to buy a bunch of stuff to kind of add on to it, and it just doesn't get easy. Now the TriCaster, of course, is $6,000, but it has all this stuff built into it, but a lot of these other things don't. This Live Wedge, I think, for like if this was me 2 years ago, I probably wouldn't have upgraded 3 times up until now. I would have upgraded once from this to the TriCaster. This has the ability to do picture-in-picture. He's demonstrating the picture-in-picture right now. So you can do a 2-up kind of thing. It does have the ability to do live chroma key. He had an alpha channel video running, so he was able to demonstrate some of that. Controls from an iPad. They thought of everything that you'll run into with this. So for example, if you plug an iPad into it, you can't really do that on the Blackmagic switcher without a scaler. This thing will do that for you. If you plug in a camera that's doing some video processing and it gets behind the audio, so the audio that's coming in via analog, he called it actually audio. His English was great, but he missed that word. It was kind of funny. But if the audio is running behind the video or ahead of the video, you can delay the audio so it'll basically be in sync with what the camera is pushing out over the HDMI. So what was amazing talking to him was that everything that I threw at him, like all the little gotchas that I've run into over the last 3 years doing this, at-home studio thing, this thing addresses. Like they really thought of all of those things, and he saw it working live. Now seeing it working live on the show floor is a little different than actually experiencing it in person. So I'm hoping to get this into the studio to take a look at in the next couple of weeks when it becomes available. He did say it was coming out this year. What was interesting was when I looked back at some other YouTube footage to see who else has covered this thing. So I'd never heard of this before. He was at CES last year also. So I don't know if he's closer than where he was a year ago, but we'll see. But man, this thing is this thing's awesome. I am just so excited about this because I think this is going to be what a lot of people are looking for. And by the way, in addition to all the stuff that they've thought about, it also will do live streaming out of the box. So you don't need to go buy this box that I got here for $700 to stream with. My TriCaster does it too, by the way. I haven't figured out how to do it yet. But you don't need to buy the box. It does it in the box, and it can record. It can't record and stream simultaneously, but it does have an SD card that you can pop into it, and you can record right to the card. So you have the ability to do pretty much a full-featured television studio in one box. And you saw me, Matt. Do you understand me, Matt? Like, why I'm so excited about this. Like, this is the coolest thing I saw at the show, because it's like, if I had this 3 years ago, my life would have been so much easier up until now. I've been spending so much time trying to figure out how to make all this stuff work, and this thing did it.
Yeah, you spend all those hours of research and buying products and everything, and you realize that, somebody finally understood those struggles that I went through. And it's really, the cool thing is that I think this is going to democratize video. Now, people back in the day, they'd learn on their community TV stations and that sort of thing. But now you can go ahead and with a little bit of money, get one of those, along with just even using your iPhone or iPad cameras and a basic microphone, and start a little TV studio in your basement.
That's it. And that's what's happening here, is that device, I think, really gets you there. Because what's funny is, the Blackmagic stuff is great, and the ATEM television studio is a great entry point. The problem is they don't have an upgrade path if you're using HDMI stuff, and that's been so. Let me pop over for a second to my TriCaster here, because I think this is why the TriCaster Mini is so useful. So if we just pan over here, you'll notice that the TriCaster has HDMI inputs, because this is what consumers have in their home. They don't have all this SDI junk. They can't really afford to run all these video scalers all the time and everything else. So having the ability to do all of these things in the box, I think, is a huge thing, and it's going to be a great tool for people to use to kind of produce their own stuff and put a little bit of a professional edge to it. Because I think what's made my channel work is the fact that I can sit down here and get different camera angles and not have to go back and edit things later. And that's what I think this device is going to bring, if it works like he says it will. And there's a lot that we have to see with this. It could not be as good as it looks, but I think it's going to be. So that was pretty cool. So we got another question here from Dan Hull in regards to the DS414 Slim, which is the Synology thing. So Synology had a little tiny network attached storage device, which I also thought was pretty cool. So we went over to their booth. I love Synology's stuff because I think they've got really nice network attached storage. And they've got this little tiny network attached storage device. Let me pull it up here. We can have that overlay as we're talking here. So now I've lost this question. So let me just bump back here and read what his question was real quick. So this little NAS drive, you can plug in all of these, basically you plug in these little notebook size drives or SSDs, and you can basically use it as a NAS. It's running everything that those other Synology devices run. And he wanted to know what the real-world application or advantage of using a NAS unit like this as opposed to the traditional alternative. And I think, so what I saw with that, so one of the things that I get a lot of, and it's funny because I often gauge what is interesting now based on what viewers have asked me. And What I find interesting, if I can pull the video back up here, my Mac has so much stuff on the screen right now that I can't find half of what I'm looking for. So let me quit out of Final Cut here. One of the things that I've been finding is that as people ask me questions about how things might work, I'm discovering that there are use cases for different form factors. And in this case, the biggest issue with these NAS drives is that sometimes people want to put them in their home theater environment. They want to have them somewhere near a television or someplace where they're watching a movie, and they don't want to hear fan noise. And what's nice about a little unit like this is that it is smaller, it generates less heat because the drives that it's using are lower powered and it doesn't use as much heat in the process of doing that, but it is as well performing perhaps as one of the bigger ones might be. And now what Franklin from Synology told me, and I haven't tested this yet so I can't confirm this myself, but he said if you put SSDs in there, chances are that fan is rarely going to come on, because they just don't draw they do draw the power that spinning drives do, but they don't have all the mechanical energy going on, so there's less heat generated by those drives, and they're able to not kick the fan on as much. So it's not fanless. It probably will kick on occasionally depending on what you're doing with it, but it's going to run really quiet, and I think if you're in a home theater environment, that's going to be a really cool thing to have available to you, and we'll see how that works. Now, Drobo has one like that too. I mean, everyone's making these things, so I'm sure they saw a need for something like that. And I just think it's cool.
Yeah.
You put a bunch of SSDs in there, it'll haul.
I think one of the interesting things with those is that for people that get MacBooks or other laptops and are fans of upgrading their internal hard drives, they now have, if they buy the mini NAS, a home for all those old hard drives that they've been upgrading. So it could be a good way to use those. And I have a friend that bought a Synology to use in place of one of the little time machine units that Apple sells, because Synology can function as a time machine but has a lot of other features. So I think that's a cool way to use it as well.
Yeah, it is cool. I just like those little things. And Braden Pickett in the chat room says if you want reliable storage, get an old box and kind of make that your NAS, which you could do. I think that's certainly a more affordable way, perhaps, certainly if you have the hardware. And there is like open source projects, like I think it's called FreeNAS or OpenNAS, one of those two, that you can use and basically make your own network attached storage. What I like about these little boxes, because I've been looking at a lot of them, the MyClouds and the Synologies, and I looked at QNAP, and I think I looked at ASUS Store also, a whole bunch of different ones. What I like about them is that they are little servers, and they're running mobile processors, but they're getting more and more powerful. So we're seeing these are little servers now, and of course he showed us that monster, that thing with the 8 drives on it. Let me pull that one up. So you can certainly go like for the Gusto with something like that. It had like dual 10 gigabit Ethernet on there as well, so you could really go crazy with something like that. But I think we're seeing, and this is running an ARM processor also, so it's pretty monstrous to look at, and it would really be pretty quick for doing a lot of server tasks, in addition to the other stuff. You can also upgrade the RAM on these as well. So I think it's, if you don't want to have a computer running all the time, and you want something lower powered, let me see if I can find a good shot of the front of it. You can have, something like this and get yourself something that'll probably do a lot of the file serving. And even, I wouldn't run a website off of it, but if you've got a website, maybe, WordPress thing that a couple of people are using as a development environment or something, this could certainly, handle that as well. So they're pretty cool for all that kind of stuff. But yeah, if you have an old computer, that should work too. What's funny though is I had an old Mac Pro. So I bought it in like 2006 refurbed. I always buy like refurb stuff. And this is when I was first getting into video. I wanted some beefy Mac to work video on. Now I use a MacBook. I didn't really need all that power. But when I started doing all this stuff with with the more modern video editing and whatnot, I had that Mac and I would just leave it on. That was like my server. And gosh, that thing used so much electricity that I got rid of it around the time I got the Chevy Volt, the electric car, and my electric bill didn't change. So that car was using as much electricity to drive me around as this computer was sitting on all day. It was a real waste of electricity there. So that was kind of funny. So that was that there. And Brendan did add too that you can do some group policies and stuff for your kids. And yeah, I mean some of these NAS devices don't give you as much control over what users can do. The Synology drives do. They actually have And if you look at some of my reviews of it, they've wrapped a really nice interface around essentially what is a Linux server. I don't know what version of Linux is running, but it's Linux BSD or one of those open source Linux implementations. And I almost liken it to getting into like Windows NT, where you can start doing some really heavy duty security and user access with something that's actually very easy to use. And I found that to be really nice about the Synology. They've got a really nice web interface, probably the best web interface I've seen on any of these devices. So that is pretty cool as well. What else are we missing, Matt? I mean, we saw so much there that I don't know what else to talk about, because we have like 3 hours of content that we could direct people to.
There is so much, and I think that it is interesting to see too. You're talking about build quality, and so it seems like that there's this trend towards making things much more durable. I mean, those little Excel tablets that we were looking at, they were pretty sturdy, but I think we were over at the Lenovo booth, and they had one of their yoga tablets, and people were writing on it with a fork or something like that.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot about that. So and this has been one of the biggest gripes I've had with some of these tablets, is that, and this is something they pointed out in the review here when we were talking to her, that these screens are so tiny that it's hard on Windows to kind of hit the right part of the screen that you're trying to hit. So they've come up with this technology, and it doesn't work with everything. It works with like pencils, screwdrivers, knives, basically metal points or things that are conductive. And you're able to like use a pencil on the screen to kind of get at some of the finer details, especially when you're in the Windows desktop mode. So I think she's got an 8-inch tablet there, and you can see she's taking a pencil, and she's able to really tap that marker very precisely, which is cool. It doesn't do like a multi-touch thing, so you have to like tap. You can't do like like you can with I don't know, like on the iPad or the Android, you can use 2 fingers to draw 2 things simultaneously. It only takes 1 input type at a time, but it does work. And they did say they hardened the screen, so you don't have to worry about it scratching as much. I'm it's not immune from getting smashed, but you can see here she's using a screwdriver, and it didn't scratch the screen when we were watching. And of course, the glass normally is harder than metal typically is. So I think those are things that you don't have to really worry about too much on any screen if it's made out of glass. But I thought that was pretty cool. The other thing that I noticed too, and one of the things that I've really been fascinated with is HP, because they went from making like these really commoditized devices to making some pretty high quality stuff, like that Stream 11 that we reviewed recently. Like that's a good computer. I think it's like it's actually something that is not cheap feeling, even though it costs like $200. And in fact, of all the let me see if I can find the Stream Mini here on our list of stuff. Of all the stuff that I've looked at in that $200 price range, the Stream Mini is actually pretty good. That's a new desktop machine that they're doing. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
And Lon, wasn't HP thinking about getting out of the desktop business a year or two ago?
I think they're splitting the company in 2, from what I understand. So they're going to be like creating like an enterprise thing and then kind of a consumer wing. And but what's been neat is they've put out some really, it's good stuff, and it doesn't cost that much money. So this is the Stream PC. I ordered one. It's actually out right now if you order it from HP. It's coming in a couple of days, hopefully, maybe by next week. And this is really, so the HP Chromebox is the same as this essentially, except this one's running Windows. So, we did a whole series on how to hack the Chromebox. I'm going to be doing it again with the Acer, because apparently I kind of didn't articulate my steps well enough in the original video, and some people have been having trouble. But it was really hard to get Windows onto that device. This one is the same device, pretty much the same processor. It's the Celeron 2957U, so it's the Haswell-based Celeron. It's faster than the Stream 11's processor. It's faster than all the other $200 computers we've looked at, and it's going to run really nice. I can just tell you that because it is basically the Chromebox, and the Chromebox really did a nice job running Windows, and this is going to be a really great computer. $179, 2 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of storage, so a little short on the storage, but and I believe this will be the case when we take it apart. I think you can upgrade the hard drive on it, and you can definitely upgrade the RAM. It's only got a single slot for RAM, but you could probably pop 8 gigs in there. I think it's running 64-bit Windows also, so it shouldn't be limited by RAM. And I think this is going to be a great, this is like a really good deal, $179 for a very usable computer. They're going to have a more expensive one also, but that was there. And I was glad we went to PepCon, which is where we found HP and Lenovo and a lot of those big brands, because we had them all in one place there, which was great.
Yeah, and Lon, one of the interesting things with that too is isn't that that's a full version of Windows that comes with, right? It's
Yes.
a complete license. It's not like crippled or anything like that.
That's right, and actually, that's what's interesting. So when I did the review of, and it's all the way over there, and I'm like plugged in, so I can't grab it. But when I did the review of the Migo Pad, which is that PC on a stick, that one is so that computer does not have a licensed version of Windows on there because Microsoft doesn't give away the Windows licenses to non-tablet devices, which they do for tablet devices. So this HP PC costs the same as a Chromebox, which I think the Chromeboxes get the operating system for free, unlike the Windows side. We'll have a full version of Windows. It's probably Windows with Bing, so it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that like Windows Home Edition or Pro or whatever has, but it's going to have a usable version of Windows, full version of Windows, just like all the other tablets we've looked at, and less than $200. I mean, that's a good deal. No monitor, but that's what are you going to do? Duke and so we saw not only that one, but they had another one that was running with a more powerful processor called, they're putting that in their Pavilion, the HP Pavilion brand. So that one will be the same form factor with a better processor and more RAM. But that one's like $400 and change, so a huge jump between the two of them. And Duke is talking about how he likes the blue one. He wants to get it in blue, but he can't. So the Pavilion is white with the faster machine, and the blue one is the Pavilion. So I've heard mixed things about it, because some people have written in saying, wow, that HP Stream 11 looks awesome, but I hate the blue color. So you can get that one in blue or pink. You can't get it like in boring beige or something like that. But so we'll see where that goes. Let's see here. We're going to wrap up pretty soon because we are it's well past it's almost like 11:30 already. It's past 11:30.
Oh wow!
Oh no, sorry, it's 10:30.
No, it's 10:30.
Yes, we're getting close to the end of the hour here, so I don't want to keep the recorded version too much longer. But of course we can continue to take questions. So let's see a few more questions from folks. But I think that covers kind of everything that we saw that was like really stand out cool. There was some other stuff like I like the fact that the Corsair solid state drive, the 960 gig drive, was like in the $500 range. I think that's a great price for something like that. So that was cool. That was the price, right? Was it that, or was it less than that? I can't remember. I have to look that up. So there was just a lot of, there was so much. And, I think, if we do it next year, like I said, I think in kind of summation, and we'll take questions, so don't worry, guys, I won't forget about you. I think we're going to approach this differently the next time we go, because I'm looking at the viewership that we're getting, which is good. We've had about 50 or 60,000 views in the aggregate of everything from the trip, which is good. Not like the Linus Tech Tips good, but it was good. But I think what I want to do next time is kind of look for things that are not covered as much. So I think we'll spend more time in the sands. I think we'll look for some of these gems like that live wedge. There's not been a real video about the live wedge. There's been people like with their phones and stuff, and there's a few in Japanese or whatever, but there hasn't been like an English language interview with somebody on that product. So I think I want to do more of that and find the stuff that no one's talking about that I think is really cool. So I think that's what we'll do next time. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, and I think that you go through and you see the list online, and it really doesn't give you a sense of what kinds of things there are, the way you get when you're there. I had no idea. What was that drone that you had backed on Kickstarter that follows you in the car?
The Hexo drone. Yep. So that's going to be neat. And we couldn't see it flying. They had a demo, and they did the demo like Sunday, the day we were coming in. So we got in too late to see it. We got in at like midnight or whatever time we got in. So we didn't get to see that one, but that was really cool. So so it was good stuff. So yeah, I'm definitely, it's funny. I wasn't hot on going in the first place. Excel reached out to us, and they've been wanting. So here's the thing with Excel, because somebody was asking, Mitchell Neth in the channel here is asking about this. So how the whole Excel thing came about. So they had approached us because I think they see what we kind of see in them, which is that they're small, we're small. We're building an audience, they're building a customer base, and they understand where they are in the market, that they're offering things that they're not a known brand. They're getting known slowly, but they are not a known brand, and they wanted to kind of talk to enthusiasts who would be eager to kind of give them feedback on what kinds of products that they should be developing or how they should be developing the products they're making. So that interview is a great, I think, a really good summation of what they're hoping to gain from sponsoring the channel. And they had approached me about coming to CES. I said, nah, I'm probably not going to go because everyone's there. And it's true, everybody and their mother is there covering that event. So it's hard to break out on the coverage side. We did okay on some of the videos for sure. But and I'm going to do a whole video on like my whole strategy with YouTube. But my traffic typically comes from people searching for things that they're looking to buy, not so much from, and the subscriber base is growing now, so I've been focusing, like this whole thing we're doing tonight is for subscribers, really. So I'm focusing now more on trying to build subscriber interest in, kind of developing a community relationship here with the channel, because that's a new thing really in the last 8 months or so when the subscriber base really grew. But that said, with 30,000 subscribers, you'll get a couple thousand views per video, but not to the extent that I would get if I had several 100,000. So that said, it's going to be a very expensive endeavor to go out to CES, drag you along with me, Matt, and cover the hotels and the flights and everything else. And I've traveled cheap. Don't get me wrong. I am the stingiest flyer you'll ever find, a traveler you'll ever find. But it is not inexpensive to go out and buy 2 plane tickets and get a hotel room and do everything else. So the equipment's fine. I mean, the equipment I have, I just take it out of the studio and bring it with me. But some groups spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on this stuff. So in any event, they approached, they wanted to know if I was going to CES. So they really wanted to meet with me and discuss some of this collaboration stuff. And I said, yeah, I'm probably not going to go. And they said, hey, you know what, why don't we talk, so I suggested, if you want to maybe talk about doing a sponsorship, I said I could probably produce 20 videos or so. Maybe we'll do a little sponsorship if you guys can help cover the cost of the travel. And they did. So it was great. And they got over 40 videos out of it, and we're still talking about them. So it worked out really well for them. So that was kind of how that kind of came about. So that was where we ended up. And Swaggy said, I got 3 more subscribers since it started, so that's cool. I don't know how he knows that. Where can you find that?
Oh, wow. People
I don't know
are loving us more and more as we talk. Maybe we just shouldn't stop long.
Yeah, we can just keep going all night. Well, it's funny. I ran through IBM Watson. I think I talked to you about this on the flight.
Yeah.
IBM Watson has this free analytics thing, so you can run your data, like just throw data at it, like just random data. Just give it data, choose on it, and it spits out stuff. And what it told me was really interesting. So everyone's been telling me, Lon, you got to be under 5 minutes and you're out before people start losing interest. I gain more subscribers on a 9-minute video than I do on a 4-minute video.
Oh, wow.
Which is like completely against what everyone's telling me to do. And so maybe if I go for 45 minutes here, that would help us do that. We're starting to lose viewers though. We're down to 18, so we'll start wrapping up here as we go here. But Robert Bontrager is a new subscriber. Thank you for subscribing. That was really nice of you to hit that sub button. And Swiggy, where can you find that subscriber button? Because my count only updates like every 24 hours. So I'd love to know where you're looking there. So, Mitchell's also asking if there was many startups at CES. There actually were, and this was that thing. The biggest mistake we made in covering CES was that we didn't get as much time at the Sands Convention Center as I would have liked. So the Sands, just to kind of give you an idea of where everything's located, the Sands Convention Center is like across the street, but where you are in Vegas, across the street is like you can die getting there if you were walking, because it's not the heat, but the traffic that'll kill you. So they had a bus running around, and we were like, I don't know. I think to some degree it was good that we started where we did, because I was able to develop relationships with some of the PR firms that handle the brands that we're reviewing, and it'll be nice to get loaners in as opposed to having to go buy all this stuff like I've been doing. And I don't think that impacts objectivity. And they actually like the fact that I don't want to keep anything that they send me, because a lot of times I don't know any specific examples of this, but I know there's a lot of people that are in this business to get free stuff, and if I get any more stuff in this house, my wife will kick me out of it. So, I'm saying, look, I don't need to keep anything. I just want to keep it for a couple of days, maybe a week or two, to kind of do an evaluation, and then we'll send it back. So it was good to develop those relationships while I was there. But certainly, I think what we would do next time is go where those startups are. So to put it in perspective, so like you can spend a lot of money and get a big booth. So like Typo was a great example of they're the guys that make the keyboards. You can look up on the playlist for that. They had a big booth and 3 products maybe. And they did that because they had the money to get that kind of a big booth. But there was a lot of these little companies that got booths about the size of this table that were able to do some really neat stuff there. And that's where I think, so most of those guys were at the Sands, and those were more of the startup-y kind of companies. And I think we definitely need to do more of that next time. So that is...
Yeah, and it's just really neat too because you'd see some of these products at the Sands. Like there's the guy with the little dock for the MacBook that helped get the airflow going if you were running video on it all the time.
Exactly,
and
that's a great example, and we're going to hopefully get one of those in too. So we didn't do videos about everything. Some things are really hard to like do a video about because he had this block of aluminum with a fan in it, but it was like designed for the MacBook Pro Retina, which I have. And that's what I edit video on. And what happens is as this thing heats up and you're doing a lot of heavy-duty video editing, the performance declines because the processor and the the GPU kind of turn down their performance so they don't overheat. And he's got, what he says is a solution for that. You put this fan on it and it will cool it off quicker so you get better performance. So I said, oh, that's interesting. I'd love to try that. So we'll probably get a demo in to look at that. And those are the kinds of things that, that were there. So pretty cool. I mean, that was a cool spot to check out. So I'm hoping to see more of that when we're out there next time, if we go. So I think we'll probably go. It was,
absolutely. I mean, it was a really cool experience to see, I think, a lot of the big brands to get to see the event, because I think one of the things is that people watch coverage on The Verge or Tech TV, or I guess it's Tech TV, CNET, or ZDTV now.
Yeah.
And so you kind of get like, okay, well, this is what Intel's doing, or this is what Audi and Ford are announcing. And a lot of those press announcements, those were, I think, the first night that we were there, or the first day, that Monday, they'd have all those press announcements. And then you're like, okay, I see this, but you don't realize the scale of what's going on. And so at any one time, there's, besides all the booths, maybe like 20 or like probably 100 events going on at the same time. And so you have only so much to choose from. And a lot of it's just the strategy of going through and wanting to both learn about what the big guys are doing, but also finding unique things that are going to be interesting that the big guys are not paying attention to.
That's it. And I think that, and we made a very conscious decision not to go to any press conferences while we were there, because that was just time that we weren't. We went to one because there was a Connecticut connection, and the guy spoke for like 5 minutes, and then I was out of there. So, because I got what I needed to know to visit them the next day, which we already had the appointment. So, yeah, so, I think if we do it next year, we're going to continue the strategy we did, which was kind of run and gun, get everything, taken as much video as possible, and then run back to the hotel at night and edit. So for those asking, no, we didn't have any fun. We had fun doing it, but I was not going anywhere. I'd eat and go back to the room and edit all night. That was my existence for the 4 days that I was there. So it's, I'm old now. I don't care. I don't need to go do anything fun. So that was that. So I think what I'm going to do now is we're going to end the recorded portion of the chat, and then we'll take a few questions in the chat room for another 20 minutes or so, and then I'm going to go to bed. So that'll do it. So this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching, and we will be back for CES 2016. Wow, it seems like it's so far off, but it isn't, right? But I do want to thank Matt, who was very diligent behind the camera the whole week, and it was really it was a really fun experience, Matt. I really appreciate you coming out with me on short notice to help out.
Yeah, it was awesome, and it's going to be great if we get to do it again, because it was fantastic.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for watching, and this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching. I have to always end with that.